transition. All right.
Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for today, March
22nd,
2019. I'm Dave Slusher, joined with my colleague Andrew Barnes.
Hello, everybody.
And we are going to today. What we're going to do is look at what I do believe is the oldest, or most mature. Let's call it that way. The most mature app that we've featured on Live Coding Happy Hour, which is my travel tracker app. And we're actually going to address some of the concerns of a mature app, because a lot of times when we get on here, we're doing a new thing because we're trying to get something to work for the first time. So we create a new scope and a new app. Well, in this case, we have a production app that we actually use, and we're years into using it. I checked the date. It said October 2016, but I think it's actually older than that because I think it was a rebuild. So I think it's closer to like 3 years when this project was started. I want to say we started it on Geneva or maybe Helsinki.
And it has been around a while.
It has been around a long time. And so like the initial rush of let's see a thing happen. Let's see a flight make the webhook work. That's long since passed. And now it's how do we actually make this thing, help our day-to-day lives? And we're running into some concerns and we're just trying to fix some of those. So anyway, that's what we're going to do today. Less of a sexy new thing. We were originally going to have a refactor month because Chuck did that thing on refactoring. And I had a refactor and we're like, let's just refactor stuff for the month of March. But then we ran it, did some real-time change-ups. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's now introduce yourself, Andrew.
All right. Hello, I'm Andrew Barnes, developer advocate at ServiceNow. Team of two. Go us.
We are the team.
We are the team. And I've been at ServiceNow for about 7 months and on the platform for a little over 4 years, coming up on the 6th Knowledge Conference here in May 5th through 9th. Enterprise architect, working with large-scale enterprise application systems. Specialty in ServiceNow specifically is managing large dev teams and the migration process of code between instances, and just happy to be here. To you, Dave.
And I'm Dave Slusher, Andrew's partner in crime as developer advocates. I've been with ServiceNow about 5.5 years. I've been developer advocate for about 3.5 years. I've been a developer for right at 20 some years, 22 years, I think. And so been through many rodeos.
Lots of languages through the years there. I know I can't remember them all anymore.
Lots of languages, lots of platforms, lots of middleware. And so there you go. None of these rodeos are the first rodeo for any of us on this call. Developer.servicenow.com. Did we plug that one?
We didn't yet. Ding.
All right, there you go. Let's get our beers and then we'll dive into the code. I think we probably need no more prelude than I've already given.
Yeah, this is Live Coding Happy Hour, and the happy hour part for today is a cease and desist Russian Imperial Stout. Probably the last really heavy beer I'm going to drink for the year because it's warming up outside. It's getting warm.
See, are you buying these things based on quality or like name of beer? It seems like there's a high concept.
So a few weeks ago, I went to dinner, and my sister took me to a little store next to it, the place we had dinner, and we bought beers based off their labels because it was hilarious.
And they seem kind of thematic. They said the style of the beer is not thematic, but the names of the beers and like the labels seem kind of like they're all the ones that would jump out at you.
Yes, they are the ones that would jump out at you.
And I'm drinking a Sweetwater Mosaic, which is going to mess with my green screen.
Oh, that did not want to render.
So it's one of these mixed 12 packs, and this is a single hop hazy IPA. Now, neither of the guys on the call are of that craft brew equals good craft brew equals more hoppy, and the more hoppy, the better. We're both, neither of us are like super IPA fans, but a little bit now and then is fine. And so I believe that I had this before and it was okay. So I think this is the only beer I had in my little fridge that I haven't yet done on Live Coding Happy Hour. So that was my selection criteria. All right, here we go.
Here we go. We did have a good run of beers on what was that, Tuesday night in San Diego?
Yes, we had between Tuesday and Thursday, we had
Oh,
some
yeah, Tues
interesting
it
things.
was Wednesday night that we went to the brewery.
Yes, it was Wednesday night.
Awesome.
Monday through Wednesday, actually. All right, which we'll be able to find out in just 1 second when we actually start looking at our data, which leads us directly
I was like, "Let's
into
talk
this.
about travel."
All right, so let me turn my video off. All right, how's my screen looking?
It is looking okay right
All
now.
right, I actually,
Tweak
I'm
it a little bit
actually
from my end, but it looks okay.
I picked this exact Zoom level because it has your and my data and none of our coworkers who I didn't, who may or may not want their information leaked out the same way. We're a little blasé about it, but they may not be. So, um, what we're looking at here is in the structure of the travel tracker. What we're looking at here is the itinerary view. And so this is very much the classic data modeling thing where you know how what's the name of the rule where you can tell by the architectures of systems reflect the org chart of the groups that code them. You know what I'm talking about?
Um,
There's a principle with someone's name attached to that, and I can't remember. I can never
yeah.
remember it, but
If you've
very
met me,
much,
you know, name of thing is not
yeah,
my strong
exactly.
suit.
So very analogous to that. Like most of the data structures in this travel tracker app are related to a data structure somewhere out in the world. And in this case, like the itinerary, and specifically like the itinerary as delivered by Concur, was kind of where I began. And so if I drill into one of these, and this was literally the itinerary that we just traveled this week, you'll see that the itinerary has a couple things. It's got a name, it's got a start and end time, it's got a record locator, and then it's got some associations. And it's got flights associated with it, and it's got hotels. It should have a car reservation. I think I need to dig into. It didn't add that automatically. There was actually a car on this reservation, so I need to somewhere in my integration. I need to figure that out. So this has bit rot over the last 3 years. And then we also have this association to travel group. And like in looking at this, I realized a bug where we're getting multiple notifications. And you'll notice, although I only have 3 different travel groups, I have 7 entries in here. And I think I have solved the mystery of why we get more than one notification when our flight lands. So I don't know why I have these in here, but I think this is the root cause. So what we want to do, but here's the deal. And if we go and look at your data, we'll see that you absolutely reflect this. Is you got actually 2 copies of this and I'm not sure if like one was if you did something and Concur twice that generated the email, but these like you have 2 entirely separate copies that came in 8 seconds apart. Uh, and
I believe I did make it send twice accidentally.
yeah,
So I think
so
that
like if
one
you
was entirely my fault.
like if you forwarded one and then one automatically sent, you'll see that it actually created basically the identical. The looking here, it's got the same stuff for you both times. So we created the same thing. So right there's a problem. But the other thing is because the data model, as we say, this is very much tied to the data model. Um, it's not uncommon that we may book a hotel first, particularly like when we're going to San Francisco or someplace where hotels are tricky, and then we get a flight later. So the itinerary really and truly isn't even the correct containment for what we care about because we're really looking at like the bundle of how things got thrown over the transom. And it's not impossible that an itinerary spans a couple logical things, and it's not impossible that many itineraries are what you want to roll up into a thing. So what I'm going to do is create something different called agenda. And so what we're going to do is very much analogous to how you might refactor a production app that's already out there, but is no longer meeting your needs. So we're going to kind of factor in place. I think the itinerary has to live on because that is still going to be the unit that things come in. But for example, I may conceivably take like all these. We may not need these modules, and it may be de-emphasized. It may be kind of like a transmission packet, but is not like it's not a top level way you would interact with the user interface. Okay, that seems like possibly too much background. So let's go forward. So if we look now at itinerary as it exists now, you'll see that it's pretty simple, right? We kind of saw what it has. It's got an active flag. It's got a start and end time. It's got that record locator, and it's got a reference for who owns this itinerary. And you'll see that we've got the many to many things We've got many to many for all the things that might be mapped to that itinerary. So we're going to kind of start a little bit analogous. One of the things that you'll notice too, for example, is the flight as it exists now. A flight is not owned by a person, right? The flight is the flight. And so there may be, like there was Wednesday night, we were both on the same flight. And so neither one of us owns the flight. The flight is kind of independent. And you'll note that in the relationship, what I did, and I haven't changed this in forever, is this many to many maps the flight to the itinerary, and then the seat is a column on that relationship. So the seat lives only on the many to many mapping. It's not, like it's not, because you don't own the flight, right? The flight is kind of independent of the
Yeah,
person.
the flight is could be 10 people from
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to kind of start creating the agenda, and it's going to be like the first cut is going to be quite similar. So let's go ahead and start creating.
And can you just pull your screen down just a little bit? I'm trying to fix some pixelation, but
Sure.
you can use just a little more of that real estate. There you go.
All right. Okay, so we're going to create that, and let's just start with kind of looking. Do we want? So, for example, this message ID, we don't need, because that message ID is another artifact of how it comes in. That's basically that is the message ID that comes from an email, and so that's how directly tied this is to the transmission. Right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to not care how it came in, and we're just going to get this into the logical, usable thing. So we'll call this agenda. The auto name will be fine. Extends nothing. We do not want to create a new menu. We want to add it to travel tracker. This is more than anything. I forget to do this. I don't even think I want it to create. Yeah, well, I'll let it create that. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do the initial submit, and then I'll start editing.
Yeah, that new table, screen there always has some. you want to go fast, and then you're like, wait, I should have clicked this thing.
Yeah. So I actually try to slow myself down, because I give myself more work to go back and fix those modules so many times, and it's so kind of unnecessary. So
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to apologize. I think something in the setup of the stream today is not got the right resolution settings, and so we're super pixelated today.
Okay.
So just apologize for that.
All right. So we will suffer forward as we can and figure out how to fix it next time. So okay. So we want the active column, which is just a binary. We want start time and end time. Date time. We want, go ahead and do end time. We don't want the message ID. The name, we do want the name, just a string. This does not, name. And I like to explicitly set this, even though it's probably not going to matter. 40 might be short. Let's give it 100. And then named, we need the owned by, we don't need the record locator. I think that's the end of what we need. I'm trying to, I don't believe that we are going to need anything else. And if we do, we'll come back and add it. So this is our starting point. And then our reference is to sys user. Sys users. Whoa. Gosh darn it. I was trying to be cute. If I do that, will it find it? No. I guess user is actually a faster. You just want to always avoid that imp user. Again, that one is the one that really bums out your day if you accidentally press that. Okay. So we'll do that. Active start time, end time, name, owned by. Okay. So then what I'm the thinking that I've got here, and let me bounce this idea off you, Andrew, is so now we've got this agenda, this list of agendas. And now what do we, given that they can span this time, we may have some trash, like we may have multiple copies, we may have it spanning. My original idea is that we would go in here and maybe we would have a UI action, which is add to agenda, something like that.
Okay. Um, so is
Or
it
the inverse, or
yeah,
import.
I think my agenda should
Should
go
import.
choose the things,
Okay.
right?
All right, reasonable
But I
enough.
mean, I think it could be, you could have something here. It could go either way, but I think the way I would do it is build my agenda from the pieces of things that are there.
Okay, so rather than add to agenda, on agenda you would say import itinerary.
Yeah.
Because, and I have actually kind of thought through the thought experiment of, do I want to kind of auto detect? Do I want to, for example, say, all right, let's assume the agenda with flights is the one, or the itinerary with flights is kind of the controller, and that sets the beginning and the end, because but that doesn't always hold. The problem with these heuristics is, you can always come up with an edge
They're
case.
flexible, right? Yeah.
So conceivably, like I kind of thought maybe we even set your home airport, and when you have a flight that gets to your home
That's
airport,
yeah. When you leave from here or arrive back here, that's your
that's the beginning and end.
yeah.
But even
Those
then,
are
you don't
guesses. Like
always do that.
that would
I
be a
might,
reasonable like starting point though is
but so then kind of we're doing a trade off, because like if we don't have that, we're gonna have to go pull it every time.
mhm.
But if we
Yeah, I
do
think
that,
you
it
do it
won't.
like you do your car, which is home base, and you're starting from there most of the time, and
Okay.
so we make it easy for the most of the time.
Okay, well, let's do that then. Let's and do we have, I think we have some kind of user preferences. Do we have, maybe we don't have a user preferences. We have a few things that are leftovers of kind of uh dead end um, out of office board, so that you kind of knew where people were. So this user schedule was part of that. What I don't have is a user preferences. Um, so we could do that, is just create a user preferences that maps your home. I don't want to necessarily take the time to do that, but let's assume that we have something like that. And we can write everything but that, and then I can do the boilerplate for that later. How about that?
That seems reasonable.
So I don't know exactly where I want to do it, but it might be just a user, just map of sysuser to you know what? Actually, let me change my mind. Let's just do that right now. I am calling an audible on myself. Let's just call it user preferences. And what we'll do is, again, we'll add it to travel tracker. This one, we may change it to like be an admin only, because the preferences for anyone but you only matter to the admin. And for right now, we'll just say home airport. And we'll make that and we don't need to make it a place. We can make it actually an airport. And we'll call it airport, since we have an airport. So let me go ahead and do that. And let's set that for myself. So we'll go over here, and I will have to reload, since we just added travel. Let's create a user preference for myself. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I completely forgot something big here, which is I did not add the column for the user that
For
I'm.
the user? Yeah.
A sort of a key point of the user preference that
Mhm.
you map it back to the user. I have literally nothing but an airport, and that's the only column other than the default. Okay, so back to sys user. All right.
All right. I fixed the blurriness in a very hacky way.
Okay.
But
Very
it's not
hacky.
great.
Very
So sorry,
hacky.
I've been distracted. You've been on your own pretty much, but
It's quite okay.
I've returned.
Fixing it, there's one key word in the sentence. I fixed it in a hacky way. That's fixed. All right. So we'll take myself and we'll give my real one, not my test one, and set Myrtle Beach International Airport and just create that. All right. So then what we want to do is, so I like this heuristic. So we've got our agenda, we've got a user preference. So, and this is one of those ones, again, the kind of the deal is when you have uh, a mature project, and I'm absolutely at this point is there's a lot of stuff in here. And now that has been written over the course of the last 3 years. And so like where things are, I am very, very much in that script include, like most things that are most logic, almost all logic lives in a script include. And so you'll see like almost all these business rules are very much like this. You instantiate a script include and you call something on it. They're pretty much all like that. And mostly this is written, at least the last 2 years worth of it are written so that I can have an easy way to script debug these things. So what we want to do is, and I believe the path is, you have and just to refresh people, if you're kind of new to my version of this project, I basically use the adapter pattern where I've had like Traxo and WorldMate are both APIs that do the same thing. They parse utility or parse itineraries and then give you a data structure. And what I did is rather than use either of these companies' data structures, I convert it to a generic one, and then the generic one moves forward. And so I have the same thing with Traxo and WorldMate. I have the same thing with FlightAware and Flight Stats. Both of our different APIs that generate flight information. So I've got a bunch of adapter classes in here. So when WorldMate comes in, it will all these things expose webhooks, and WorldMate accepts the push. It does XML, and then it converts the email to JSON. And then what does it do? It pushes it to. See, this actually has probably more, and part of the reason, and I remember now why I'm doing all this stuff is because this is part of the adaptation. Is that you have to like the two different companies, the Traxo and WorldMate, don't even necessarily have the same levels of containment. They're not like a one-to-one thing. So I'm doing a lot of stuff to kind of get that information. When it's all done, you'll see that this is kind of a tad tricky. This is
Yeah.
this is so all this happens, and then I return the JSON. So somewhere in here, I handle the parsed itinerary, and this is taking that object that returns from that other thing. Okay, so then handling the parsed itinerary is where things get created. That itinerary gets created, and you'll see the get or create, which is, I guess, upsert is. I don't know that I knew the term upsert when I started creating all these things, but this is in fact upsert. And so it's doing all this stuff. It's adding the flights, it's adding the hotels, it's adding the cars to the itinerary.
Yeah.
So I got to think about where in this flow I want this to happen. If we're going to do this automatically,
So I would think you'd create the. So are you gonna? Do you still want to relate all the things to the itinerary, or do you
I
want?
do. I want the itinerary to still exist.
Okay, then this should probably be the last thing.
So like, well, so everything's got to go in the itinerary, and then what I'm basically going to do is possibly I collate the itineraries. Um, so
Is it at the end of building the itinerary, you then also create an agenda?
um, how about let's back up, and again, because this is mature, I don't remember where I did this. Let's see who is calling handle parsed itinerary.
The code search tool is very, very handy.
So somewhere in here, one thing is so itinerary utils. So I'm calling it from somewhere else in there. 15, 11. Wait, now somebody's got to be calling this. Where is that happening?
Is it outside of your app? Maybe did you search all?
I didn't search all. Let's do it. Let's search it again. Handle shouldn't be happening outside of my scope, but
But
can I
but we know
guarantee that?
things happen.
Itinerary. It's also not impossible that I have more than one copy of functions, and this is not the one that's doing the thing.
It's not looking
Still there.
promising for it to being called out.
Okay. So handle parsed itinerary. So let's collapse this. We've got add itinerary to travel groups. Yeah, it's et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Create itinerary. Create itinerary. Close itinerary. And these are like I've got business rules that close inactive ones, et cetera, et cetera. Let's go back to let's go to my webhook
And see what the first step is.
Yes, let's see.
The
So
other option that is potential is to, throw in a couple of breakpoints in some places and
just see that is in fact entirely possible is that we just see what's happening. Let's look at this for 1 second and see if this is promising. This should.
that this
So I get the
be.
new world mate,
Yeah.
convert, and so it's right. Why did it not turn this up? I'll bet I handle and versus handle and handle. I don't know what
Parsed itinerary.
this should have
Uh
turned this up. I would say.
I maybe this is a
Maybe it's a bug.
script box that is not revealed with the code search.
Interesting. Okay.
Because that definitely happens. I mean, we add those over time.
So I think this might be. This seems like a reasonable part to say. Or is it? Is this a reasonable place? Now let's think through the use case. Is you're the first put. You're the case where there's multiple itineraries are going to come in, and we want them to become one logical agenda. You are the first one of those. So you're going to come through, and at least the default automatic heuristic is going to be:
Create.
Do you have a flight? Yeah. Do you have a flight that starts with? Here's the. Okay, I've talked myself into something now because let's say
got an aha. I love those.
I have an aha because what we want to do is define the boundary by flights that start and end at your home airport.
Yes.
And I already said the very first thing I said. Actually, before we say anything, I'm going to open I haven't even opened my beer.
Well, that is just a crime.
I know. 1 second. Cover me for 10 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, I'm going to divert. We've got the Knowledge Conference coming up May 5th through 9th. Come join us there. We'll be in the CreatorCon area quite a bit, where we're both teaching some workshops, giving breakout sessions, and theater talks. So,
all right,
you find us there. All
okay,
right.
I'm good. This beer is so cold. There's ice in it. Oh, this is nice.
Wow. I like it.
So I had already said that we're like my canonical example is we book the hotels first. So if the hotel comes through first, we've got nothing to.
Oh yeah, because we do typically do hotel first.
So if we do the hotel first, there's nothing for it to do. So like putting it here in the webhook would actually be wrong in the very case that we're kind of trying to optimize on even. So then the question is this maybe this is a business rule on a business rule or maybe it's just a scheduled job. We need to do something that's a little bit asynchronous that says collect together like itineraries into an agenda.
Yeah. So how about something like this that because we don't typically need an agenda that often, and we don't need it as soon as the thing comes in. And if we're going to batch it up, then that seems like a scheduled job kind of thing. And the logic can be, either they, well, no, let's do the logic of the dates are close and it's the same user.
Actually, even before we do that.
Okay.
I just realized we're talking about when we're going to do it, but we can just do it now. Just say, let's start this. And then, so let's do, exactly analogous to everything in this darn thing. Agenda utils. Alrighty. So the first thing we're going to need is,
To
uh,
create an agenda.
yeah, create agenda. Do we want to? Is that the first thing we want? If we create an agenda,
I don't think it's the first thing we're gonna do, but it's definitely the first function that jumped in my head was create an agenda. The second one
but what's
was
the?
look up
Um,
an agenda, and then that one would call create agenda if it doesn't find one.
Actually, I'm going to go backwards because I think that we absolutely will need this one. Actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm just going to leave it there as a.
Yeah.
Let's bullet
Stub. I
point what
wasn't
we're
going to
going to
build
need.
it right now. It's a stub, and we're going to call
Yeah,
it.
we're going to stub out the things we need. We need create an agenda. We need find
Find agenda.
agenda.
And that one, when it fails at finding, we'll call create agenda.
And then let's say, what's the right collate agendas? Group agendas. Let's say group
Group
itineraries.
Group travel or
Itineraries into agenda. There you go.
now.
Tell me.
So one thing, just from the wording of that,
Mhm.
um, are we going to have a case where we will have a case where you're having a itinerary that you send in that's not actually for the same agenda. Like there's things in there that are not the same agenda.
I think what I'm probably going to do is I think we're going to do something like, say, um, somehow or another, we're going to have to keep track of whether this itinerary has been handled or not. Whether we keep a table of, this is where actually we can maybe you make these data structures work for us, because here's one thing that we could do is, rather than, I was initially thinking that maybe we would want to, like keep a table to say that this has been handled. But in fact, one of the things that defines the dupe here is that you've got this group rotator, right? The RD whatever.
Yeah.
And this one has the same one because it's two copies of the same thing.
Right.
So why don't we instead? And I was originally thinking maybe we put a flag on here, like handled, not handled. But maybe why don't we keep a list of
Record locator to
record locator to handled record locators or something like that. So
well,
that
if it's in an agenda, it's handled.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we don't. So we don't have to keep an what we want is, given a, so then I think what we want to say is, given a record locator, what we want is has been handled.
Mm-hmm.
That takes a record locator. And in this case, we're going to look and see, is this contained in an already mapped itinerary? Oh, look at that. How did I do that? So we need a has been handled. And so that will be one of the first things called by this, right? Is we're going to loop over itineraries. Well, we'll figure the logic of that when we get to it. But this will be part of that.
Feeling like that's going to, just because of optimization, I think I would flag them as handled.
Yeah.
On the itinerary. Like,
I think we need this even. I think we need this even if we do that.
Well, I think we need the function, but yeah. I think where we store the thing.
You're saying so now we're querying on unhandled. Is what you're thinking.
Basically.
Yeah, because otherwise our query of finding things to work on is going to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
And we might very well, I'm okay with starting out and optimizing later if it's a problem. Is what we might end up doing is just gather every active itinerary and look at it over and over. And so we're gonna have a lot of
if we want to do that, that could conceivably, if it finds a better agenda to fit in, maybe it pops over there.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm okay with that as long as it's not horrible.
Okay, so it will be something like this. So this is kind of our outline: create agenda, find agenda, gather itineraries into agenda, and they'll use this.
Okay.
And so we want this to be a scheduled job, and we'll worry about the scheduled job later. It's 5 after. I doubt we'll.
Yeah, the actual running of the
No
scheduled
chance
job,
we're going to
that's for
actually make it
later.
to the thing.
Yeah.
So create agenda, and we would be passing this an itinerary.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do this. This is kind of my own convention. I don't know that anybody else actually uses it quite this way, but that absolutely is not very close to the word itinerary. I typically
ITINER.
suffix it with gr if I'm actually passing the glide
The
record,
whole
or
object. Yeah.
so I can tell whether it's a glide record or not. So that's my uh it's my way of dealing with a weakly typed or untyped language.
Yeah.
And so we're going to var agenda gr equals new, and I'm missing the vargar macro right now.
You're missing it? Why? Why didn't you
Is
just
it
use?
still? Does it still work?
Yeah.
Oh, there we are. Okay, great. Let's do that.
I was like, why are you typing this?
For some reason, I thought that it had been removed.
No.
Okay, and we don't need any of the queries. I just really want to get that boilerplate.
Okay.
Then let's go get the agenda that we just created. Get his name because
Because we don't know it.
I'm too lazy
Uh,
to even.
you know, I'm a big fan of the copy paste.
Okay, so then what we're gonna do is, and it really is a 6 of one, half a dozen with this one because we have no default data. It doesn't matter whether we do um,
Initialize or
initialize or
record.
new
Yes.
record. Let's just do initialize. What we want to get is, let's get the user from the itinerary. And so this is one of these things where that's going to be a reference. So let's say, and you're going to really have to sanity check me on this. It's going to be coming in as a reference. So let's say set value
Yeah.
of,
And then user, right?
yeah,
Hopefully we
of,
named it user.
and I believe I just called it, I think I called it owned by. Owned by, I think it's my
Owned by. Okay.
owned by rather than user, because conceivably you might have,
I'm fine with it.
yeah, I tend to name them by the name of the type of relationship rather than the thing. Because by default, if you had two different associations to user, they're both user.
Yeah.
One might be like manager or employee or something like owned by, and one could be travel manager or travel coordinator or something like that. So owned by, and then the value of this is going to be, and I don't know if I like doing this as a one-liner, but I'm going to do it right now. Itinerary gr dot get. If I do the get value, I'm getting the sysID, right?
You actually don't need to do any of that.
Want me to just do owned by?
Dot
Owned by?
either do dot get the unique dot
Oh yeah,
get unique value.
No, I don't. I would have to do the get ref record.
Oh yeah, sorry for the I'm sorry for the
because I want the value of their owned by, not the
yeah, get value is fine then.
get value.
Of
Itineraries. Yeah.
What's the field in itinerary? Oh, it is.
Also owned
Oh,
by.
and you set it in agenda for owned by.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're both
okay,
owned
good.
by.
Yay.
They should all be the name the same. So really and truly, if we should really just be able to do like a splat for everything.
Yeah. And in this case, I mean, you're not looping over anything, so the get value is not greatly needed here.
Yeah, I mean, I could do the dot, but I have
just to be, I love to tell people just use the getters and setters.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're not doing loops, you don't need to. Because
And so right now, I believe that's all we're going to do at this point. And let's start it out as active. We might as we'll set active as true
Yeah,
here.
that seems reasonable. I mean, I just set the thing as default is active is true.
We could do that. And then now I'm going to have to remember which one of these. Initialize is the one that uses default values. Is it not?
Yes.
New record
Initialize
is the one
is
that keeps it
yeah.
creates it empty. All right, and let's go ahead. We'll do that. Active and default value is true. That seems fair enough. And then we don't have to do anything else. And then agenda
Insert that bad boy.
insert. Okay. And I'm not going to worry right now about, you know what we could do? Let's just,
Return it. Yeah, why not?
why not? Find agenda. I'm not going to worry about that now. Has been handled. All right. So let's now. There's actually another thing that we're going to have to do exactly equivalent to itinerary that we haven't done yet, which is set up the M2M relationships.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do. Let's go ahead and do that. We're actually, I think, so we're going to need all the equivalent relationships from here, from this data model. So we need the flights, agenda flights, the agenda hotels, agenda travel groups, and I think we need one more, which is we need agenda itineraries.
Yes.
So we're going to do that, and that's ultimately what's going to drive this has been handled. Is this record locator in something mapped to one of these guys?
That seems reasonable.
All right, let me go ahead and I'm going to submit this now just to. We are far from done, but save early, save often. Save early, save often, cry seldom.
I like to not have those green dots on the screen there. Of it.
If you have more than one, like two or
three, if you
three,
have more than one, you're doing it wrong.
it's a psychic pressure on your soul every time you look at that. All right, I can get rid of that and that. I actually want to get rid of tabs too. And we don't need that right now. So let's start creating some many-to-many relationships. And again, first pass, these are going to be, these are not abbreviated.
So I don't believe that we're going to need multiple. I don't think itinerary to agenda is going to be a M2M.
Oh, it's not, because
it should be, at a 1 to M.
Itinerary could an itinerary. Well, that's something we have to decide right now. Is can an itinerary be in more than one agenda?
I would object to it.
Problem. I would say that couldn't be. By definition, I think it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So we don't want that, which means
I want multiple itineraries in one agenda.
Multiple itineraries can be that. So that means that an agenda or an itinerary needs an agenda reference.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
that has been handled. Is a point, it's got a reference field to it. It's been handled.
Okay, but we do have, so this is going to be, I think actually this a fair amount of this is we're going to have less coding and more talking, more architectural modeling, which is quite fine with me.
Isn't that always the case when you're deciding new things?
Absolutely. I think one should say that should be.
Yeah, the talking should become before the coding.
Okay, here's an even better example. Here's one you forgot that it went automatically and you forwarded it again.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got two copies of what's clearly the same thing because it got the same record locator.
Yep.
So the first one, this itinerary will get a reference to the agenda. Do we want, so then this second one comes in. We do the has been handled. That will be true. Okay. Yep. So this itinerary will have had a reference to the agenda written in it.
Yes.
Do we want to write a reference to the same agenda in this one, or what do we do with this extra one?
I say we either mark it inactive if you've got it inactive, or you get rid of it. But I don't like that option, so I like the inactive.
I'm actually.
But I would still link it to the same agenda if the record is still there. If we leave the record in the system, link it up to the agenda.
Link it there and make it inactive.
Yeah.
And this does actually, there's a small bit of research question. I do believe it's not going to be possible to have the same record locator with different things in it. I think that will by definition generate a new record locator. So like, let's say you made a change, so we
Yeah,
can assume
it will
if it's got
be
the
a new
same
record
locator,
locator
there won't be a different flight.
because
So
it's
we
a
don't
new
have to
itinerary.
reprocess this. Yeah. We
Yeah,
won't have to reprocess this and look for new different stuff. Because if you added a car, you couldn't add a car to the existing. If you add a car, you're creating a new
get a
record.
new
Yeah.
you get a new record, and
So some of that is
and
actually a
that's
kind
by
of an open,
design from Concur.
or not even concur.
I'm
I think this
sorry,
is even farther up the late. I don't actually know. And this is actually the research question: is who owns the record locator? Because I think of this as a flight thing, because this is like how your boarding passes are, but
but it's not,
it
right?
might be bigger than that. It might
'Cause
be
that's got to be
higher,
a roll
more
up to the
universal than that,
itinerary. Yeah.
because your car also has a record locator.
Hmm.
So, but anyway, so that's what we're gonna do. So let's go ahead and do that
Does
while
that
we're at
table have
this.
an inactive?
Itinerary does have active, yes.
Yeah. Set that bad boy false.
And let's go ahead and before we forget about it, let's set this to, let's give it,
Give it a reference field to
I don't want
agenda.
to do it that way. Yeah, let's give it a reference to agenda. I don't want to do the new. I don't like to do that one. Agenda. All right, decision made.
And now that is a one to many relationship
What exactly?
as soon as we hit update.
Okay. So now as we look at the kind of the pseudocode of this, when we gather itineraries, we look for has been handled, and we can even kind of start fleshing this out.
Yeah, we just do a query for, it's empty
Query for
on the
we're querying on itineraries.
Yeah.
It has been a long time since I've been at this stage of coding. This is actually so much fun to be. We've been doing a lot of stuff that's not coding lately.
We've been doing a lot of flow designer and integration hub stuff, and not a lot of actual glide record scripting directly.
We'll add an active query, which we absolutely need. So now what we want to do,
and
so
then
we've got
we
the
want
record
to add a
locator
query for
the
record agenda is blank.
Is the agenda is blank and the record locator matches. So we need two different things.
Okay.
Agenda.
Well, do we want has been handled to be? Do we want it to? Do we want it to?
Oh no, I'm doing this in the wrong thing. I'm absolutely doing this. I'm thinking wrong. Yes, you're absolutely correct. The only thing we're looking for is
it agenda?
We don't even want this active. I don't think we even want the active query. I was totally doing the loop too early. Agenda, and do I want to do it? Do I want to compare it to this, or do I want to do it? Is empty?
There.
I'm forgetting the operators.
There is a is empty, but I don't remember how to actually
binary
out.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and compare it to empty string right now.
Yeah, there is an operator for is and empty, but I don't remember how to do it without that encoded query.
I also don't either. And so record locator,
and then we're going to set it. Are we going to, as part of this, go ahead and set it false, or
absolutely not? No.
Okay,
this is an information only. We'll do that up here.
Only.
Yeah. Well, this is we just want the answer. If gr next. So we're looking for an empty agenda for this record look has been handled. And if gr next, if we find something, if any of these, if this turns up empty,
do we want to return the object?
If we find no, so
how are you going to call this, and what do you want to do with it when you call it?
So we're gonna be like basically looping over itineraries, like active itineraries.
Okay.
And we'll just be saying, like at the course level, we might want to refine it later, but like the coarsest possible level is The schedule job looks at every active itinerary and it says, has it been handled? Meaning, has this record locator been entered into an agenda yet? If not, we'll kind of find one for it or create one. So at this point, if we find anything in here, if this GR next returns anything, it has been handled.
No.
If it finds something, if it finds a record, it has been, if it does exist. If an itinerary
no,
we're looking for empty
blanks. Yeah.
Well, no, we want to do the opposite. We want this to be not empty.
Okay.
If we want to search for the non-empty agenda.
Okay.
If we find anything, then it's true.
Well, there's always going to be there will always be tracker itineraries with agendas that have things. Except for the first time we run this thing ever in the system.
That is absolutely correct. So, no. Yeah, you're right. Oh, gosh, dog it. So record locator. So add query. Agenda is empty and record locator. Record locator is the one we're looking for, because without the record locator, this doesn't do much for us.
Why do I care about the record locator?
Because we want to know if this one specific record locator has been handled. We're going to look locator by locator.
Oh. Okay.
So if we come up with a record, we come up with
a different problem than I understood it to be. Got it. That's fine.
All we want to do is say, does there exist a mapped for this itinerary, an itinerary with this locator that has been mapped? This is, so I think I'm back to my original thing is if there's anything with a populated agenda.
There is something with an agenda for that record locator. Yeah. And then we want to set the passed in one to inactive.
I don't want this to have any side effect. I want this to just be a true false.
No. I mean, the thing that's calling this is the result of it is going to be.
Yes. Yeah. If it has been handled, yes, that's what you say. If it has been handled already, that means
then the itinerary that I'm looking at right now should become false because it's already been handled before.
Correct.
Got it. Yes.
And what we'll do over here, and in fact, what we'll do is we'll query on itineraries with empty agenda.
Yep.
And that's how we'll find the ones that need to be handled. So we won't look at every itinerary in the world. We'll look at only ones without an agenda.
Okay, well then just take out the agenda line.
That's true. Yeah. Can we take it as a given that we have already limited it down to the agenda?
No, because you'll find you'll find the current record.
Yeah.
So we have to exclude current in either from the agenda is populated or the sysid. It's not my current object.
That was absolutely the wrong thing. All right. Yikes.
Wow.
I was trying to.
You were having fun there.
I was trying to undo it, and I did the Emacs undo, and that was my problem there.
Emacs strikes again.
All right. So I'm actually now at this point hamstrung by the syntax for this.
Yep.
Is there a let's use the autocomplete to our advantage. Is there a add not null query? Specified record is not null. There you go. Is that what we want?
Add not null query. Does that accept that? I don't even remember. I'm gonna have to go look. I'm bad.
I believe that's what we want. But let's. So we spent so much time talking. Let's just say if we can get this.
Let's just write some things. Yeah.
Let's do this.
We understand what we want. We'll write it soon.
Yeah. So this is because most of this hour has been this conversation and decision making. So let's see. Let's go ahead and just take. Let's create an agenda. We'll just go and create one manually. Let's create an agenda. And we'll call it, that's interesting. Let's name 100.
Your syntax is correct, by the way, so it's fine.
Okay, great. Let's call it Dave Test, owned by me. And we won't care about anything else. We just want it to exist and have a sysID. Let's
Hmm.
copy the sysID.
Okay.
Let's go to my agenda or my
Sure.
itinerary. Sorry, my itinerary. So we want this guy. No. We'll go make this you because you're the one that's got the multiple
I'm
things.
the troublemaker.
You are,
Yes.
you're the dude. All right. Andrew test
Yeah.
owned by Andrew. All right. And while I'm doing this, do we have anything in the chat that we need to
Nope.
address? Okay. It's either a great sign or a terrible sign. It's hard to say. All right. So this one, oh, what I didn't do, it should be the same sysID. So we'll take one of these two. And let's add this to the agenda. Well, so we want the agenda for one. Oh, you know what? I don't have to do that. Why do I need this? There's only one in the whole thing. So we have one. We have one with the agenda and one without.
One without. Yeah.
So you can go ahead and personalize the list, add agenda so that we can see it. Okay. So we want this one to return, we want them both to return. Our success case is we get 2 falses. Both of them return, or we get false from, or true from has been handled. Okay. So given the sysID, and let's even look at this guy to make it a little more challenging. Let's get the sysID of this guy. Let's do explore. Oh, it doesn't expand in there. I always forget that. That's right quick, and then we can call it a day because we are kind of at the time. So we want to get that one particular itinerary. So let's come over here and get the itinerary table name. All right. So then given that, we want to var AU equals agenda utils.
Utils. All right.
Then we want an AU dot has been handled. Is that our
handled? That sounds right.
Has been handled. Let's
save
save this before I do anything. Has been handled. That would be a bummer. And what we want actually is AU dot record locator. So what we want is to get a true answer for this.
All right. And why don't you pipe that into? Well, I mean, you'll see it, but
we'll see. You want to just do a add info message?
Yeah, or yeah.
Or we can't debug from this one. I don't think Explorer can debug for some reason. Let's just leave it like this. Let's look at the output when we're done. All right, let's run this. What we could even do, let's even do one better. Since this is brand new code, and I like to do this on brand new code, let's do the script debugger because we have a script debugger.
Is it a script debugger?
All right, so we'll do the script debugger. I don't know how if it's picking up on this mic, but there are absolutely children running absolutely rampant right out my window. Undefined value has no properties. Line number 5 of script include. That is, line number 5 of my script include. Out of curiosity, let's do the copy system. I do this. I don't know if I'm the only person in the world that does this. A lot of times I do the script ID because you get that type of message. 9425. Oh, that's not even my script include. That's not agenda utils. Agenda utils is 9425. And I'm getting an error on this one. Interesting. So let's see if we can do a code search on that. Huh. Why? That is an odd one to me.
What was the error we were getting?
We're getting Undefined value has no properties. Conversion error. Insist script include EF
Do
four.
you need to, since it's running in the travel tracker scope, do you have to use the scoped name of the agenda utils, or are you fine?
I
And, and does it
should
start
be
with a capital A?
uh agenda utils
Okay.
just to yeah, that looks like the right thing.
Does look.
New glide report.
Do you want to new it?
Oh, yes. Yes. That would be the problem, my friend. Thank you. Good eyes there. All right. Whew. Because what I was trying to do was interpret that thing as if it.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go over to the script debugger. All right. See what we got here. GR. Add not null query. Let's do query. If GR next.
And
See
it
what we
won't do
got.
anything until you step in.
Return false. Oh, that's a problem.
That's what you said you wanted, because didn't you set the agenda in both of those?
I set the agenda in one of them.
Oh, I thought you
So we
said it in
want,
both.
yeah, we want has been handled to be true for this one because we want to find an itinerary on this record locator. Oh, record locator is undefined. Here's the problem.
Oh, did we not pass it in a way that it's happy?
I'm saying GR. Let's say GR. Let's do that.
GR. That does seem like it will be happier with that.
All
Good
right.
play.
All right. So let's try this again.
I didn't catch that the first time.
Should be
I
a lot
should
more
be
successful.
more successful.
At the very least, there's our record locator.
There's a record locator.
There's our add query. Return true.
Yay.
All right.
Good job,
So,
everybody.
has been handled. Okay, so this is really just kind of the beginning. We have a lot more work to do. We're kind of at the bottom of the hour, so we need to stop here. But now, given this, the next thing to do is to kind of back up one, and we're going to, in this gather itineraries, we are going to look for active itineraries with no agenda in them.
Well, yes, but maybe.
Active, well, we may be doing some redundancy, and I'm not that worried at this stage. We may optimize later, but we're going to look for every active itinerary with nothing in its agenda record. If we get the has been handled answer for that, if it's both active and doesn't have an agenda, we're going to insert the agenda and mark it inactive.
Yes.
Because we're making the assumption now, and we'll have to validate this in runtime, is that that's the only way that we can get to this point, is that we've already handled it once. So that's going to avoid reprocessing the old ones.
Yep.
And then what we're also going to need to do is have a little bit of logic inside of this guy, which is to say, let's say I'm a hotel. So we're going to have to say, first we're going to have to look and see flights. Is the first flight start in my home hotel? Does the last flight end at my home hotel? If so, either or both of those or neither of those could be true.
Mm-hmm.
So if the home we start at the home thing, our start time is the agenda start time.
Yep.
And we're the beginning of this. If neither is true, I'm not sure exactly what we do yet. But then what we're going to do is say, if we've got something, let's say to make it easy, we've got just a hotel or just a car rental by itself. We're going to look for an agenda that those can go into. If those don't exist, then we'll just create it, which means we're the first thing that's happened.
Right.
And then that logic will be in there.
Yep.
And so this will take some crafting, because
they're actually some crafting, because we're going to do a lot of date manipulation here and guessing.
Not only that, not only is there going to be a lot of date manipulation, but we got to think through the use case. Is what happens if we get a bunch of hotels one by one and a car rental one by one, and then say half of the flights and then the other half of the flights. I mean, let's assume the worst case scenario.
There's going to be proximity date guessing.
Correct. So probably maybe somewhere in a property, we're going to say the maximum allowed guess is like say 10 days or 2 weeks or something like that.
I'm gonna say like 3 days
I would not say 3 days
because
because
if I go from one hotel to another and it's more than 3 days, I need another hotel in that chain until
unless let's say you're going to Australia on one day and you're going to London like 9 days later.
right. But those are separate itineraries until I have
They're one,
flights.
yeah, but they're one agenda, and that's what
Or
I'm saying is what.
they're separate agendas until I get something that changes that equation, which is a flight.
Oh, you're saying coalesce agendas.
Absolutely. I'm saying I
Oh,
will nuke that agenda in a heartbeat if it empties out.
you're doing a B tree rebalancing that I hadn't
Yes.
really thought about. Okay, that's an interesting idea. I was really just kind of thinking that you would. Yeah, I think maybe I like that better. Is that so? Then we needed something else, which
Because as
is
soon as I get flights that start or end at my home city, I'm going to find everything that falls in those dates and pull that into that agenda.
so what you're saying is you create everything in its own agenda until you find the boundary, and then you gather everything up.
Pretty much.
Huh. Okay. Well, this we'll have to think on.
If they're close, if they're within, a smaller window than 10 days, I'll throw them into the same agenda as is building. But once I get something that I actually really care about, which is home city, home base.
Uh-huh. All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share because I think at this
Yeah.
point we're done with the code and we're kind of back into conceptual world. Yeah.
Yep.
There is definitely a lot of thinking to do about this and this is kind of this is not an uncommon case. This is not, I think I like your strategy better than mine. It will take a little cogitation, but it's probably better because mine was I'm trying to do kind of the Soviet command and control thing, which is I know this, and once I
I'm
find
doing
the
loosey
meaning, I mark
goosey until it gets there.
it. You're doing. I'm coming to come up with a taxonomy, and you're doing a folksonomy, and you're saying if we have to, we'll combine them. Hey, man, do whatever. We'll just, So an itinerary will always go to. It will either have been handled or will go to an agenda. That
Yes.
agenda is not guaranteed to be the final agenda because
Right.
agendas may combine. This agenda may
Yes.
get absorbed into another one, in which
Mhm.
case rewrite which one it points to, delete the first one,
And
and
if the
repoint it to.
first one is now empty, get rid of it.
Okay. I like that thinking. All right, there's a lot more to do on this, which means I'll either do it offline or you'll be seeing more of this on Live Coding Happy Hour in the future.
I like that the sun
Combination of
has
both.
changed and now it's doing fun things with my green screen.
Yeah, it was absolutely just by sheer luck that we both picked Madrid either at night or sundown type pictures for our backdrops. And we
Hello,
did.
Madrid.
Hello, Madrid. We're both in Madrid, different parts.
Well,
Okay, cool.
that was fun. I think I've got a handle on making the thing better pixelation. We've had some pixelation issues in the past, so I think I've really got it, and I'm gonna
Okay.
share that, and we're gonna try and make that better. So that was cool. I don't think there's anything preventing us from doing this again next week. So, or just doing a show again next week. So
Might be
we'll
this topic,
probably,
might be another.
yeah,
TBD.
TBD.
We skipped an important thing.
We're not done yet.
Let's
There's
get to
still the beer ratings to go.
absolutely this
Um,
mosaic. Well, go ahead. I'm gonna have more sips because I haven't had many.
yeah, you've been talking a lot. My cease and desist, which is hilariously named. I like it. This Russian Imperial Stout was just what I needed after a long day a long week to San Diego and back to the East Coast again. And oh man, I I tend to put the Imperial Stouts like all towards the end of the range, but I think it deserves a solid 4.
Very,
It's excellent.
very good. I'm gonna say, like, I'm gonna say this mosaic is a 4.0 myself. It is
Nice.
still so cold. I've had this out for an hour. It's still so cold that it still has ice in it. You can hear it rattling if you.
Wow. That
That
is
is.
impressive. Cozy
I
you got
think Well, I think maybe I have my beer fridge turned up too high.
there.
I think that's what that means. Okay, cool. So this is actually it's interesting that so as I said, Travel Tracker is one of the older, or I keep saying older. I would prefer more mature as somebody who might be on the more mature end of myself.
one
Um,
one of the
but
longer running applications we have
yes,
in production use.
but it's very much the development effort has very much been fits and starts. So that in those 3 years, probably every calendar year, there's like 2 months of
Yep.
development and like
One
10
big
months of
push
just
of.
fitting. Yeah. So it very much goes in kind of chunks like this. And so the I don't think I even mentioned like the main driver of this is one of the things we've done recently was add notifications to it, and that was actually all Flow Designer, where I added Slack messaging. But one of the things people were a feature suggestion was that people said, "Tell me the next thing
That I'm
on
doing.
there.
Yeah, that was my suggestion. I was like, I want to know the next thing that person's doing.
Is it a flight? Is it a hotel? Is it a
Yeah,
car rental? Like, what's the next thing? Both for
what's the
you
next
and
thing?
because it
And
kind
for
of tell
them. Yeah, it's for
because
both people.
because it
It's
lets
for
you know
anyone who cares.
is this flight terminal for now, or is it are they there, or are they a layover,
Right.
basically.
And
So
so
if
the
the next thing is a
agenda
flight, the
will
agenda
give you
does
the
that.
next thing. And then when it's done, it says, and they're home.
But that's far from the only benefit, because it also gets you to the logical view, as opposed to you could like right now you can have a bunch of itineraries and like drilling into the right thing. So it actually has two different. We're solving several problems.
Yeah,
One
several
remote.
problems at the same time with that agenda. It really is. Because
So
I myself want to know how to get to, what the hotel address is and how to get there. And so I want Slack to tell me,
right,
your
yes,
flight
yeah.
arrived. Here is your hotel you're going to. Thank
That's
you, please.
that's not a bad considering. I got to where did I get to? I got to Copenhagen and realized I didn't know the address of the thing. I didn't know where it was in town. They didn't have Uber, and I had no exit plan from the airport. So, yeah. Okay.
All right.
There you go.
Well,
Thank you,
thank you, Dave,
everybody.
for driving. That was awesome. I love our Madrid images today, and everyone have a most wonderful weekend, and hope to see you at Knowledge.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.